Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu salamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Criterion of Action, Mizan Amal. And we have read almost half of a chapter on the mothers of virtues, Ummahat Fada'il, the main essential virtues. And these four major virtues are wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. And the rest will fall under all the other virtues will fall under one of these four categories, four virtues. الحكمة والشجاعة والعفة والعدالة. And we have reached temperance. We did not read about temperance. Imam Al-Ghazali said, temperance is the virtue of the appetitive faculty, denoting its easy and straightforward compliance to the intellective faculty, so that its every contraction and expansion is at its behest. It lies between two vices. Excess and deficiency are always vices. In this case, greed and listlessness. Greed is the appetite's excessive pursuit of pleasures that the intellective faculty disdains and forbids. Listlessness is the appetite's disinterest in what the intellect recommends to be attained. Both are blameworthy, and temperance is the praiseworthy middle point between them. One of the things that has been mentioned about the Romans, of course, there were Romans who were very poor. Think about these games, wrestling, fighting that took place between slaves and or prisoners of war or captives and animals. And of course, by animals, it could be a lion, it could be a tiger, it could be. On that day, the game is free, and something like half a loaf of bread will be given for free to the masses. So by the Romans, we mean the elite, the rulers. They used to eat until they are literally full, and there was a room where they would go and they will vomit and go back to eating. And it has been said, it's a Roman thing. I have never seen anybody doing that. They used also to eat while they were laying down on their stomachs. They said that this way the maximum they can like stuff themselves. This is really a very clear case of greed, listlessness. It is really it could reach the case, especially nowadays, where one is not interested at all, to the degree that they become like ghosts. Literally, they lose weight, no food, nothing. Both are excess and deficiency, extreme cases. Both are blameworthy, and temperance is the praiseworthy middle point between them. A person must keep a close watch on his appetite. It is usually in excess, especially with regards to sex and food. wealth and power, and love for praise. Excess and deficiency in all of these are imperfections. Perfection lies only in equilibrium. The standard of equilibrium is provided by the intellect and revelation. What this means is to be aware of the desirable purposes of the traits of appetite and irascibility. For example, by knowing that the appetite for food was created to instigate the consumption of food to restore the vital heat that is lost from his body and keep his body alive and his senses working correctly. In fact, it seems that the Arabic has an additional nuance. It is what is lost from the body. يسد خلل ما يتحلل من أجزاء بدنه بالحرارة الغريزية. That once this consumption takes place, it is to restore the vital heat. It is to restore the parts of his body that have disintegrated because of this heat. This allows him to utilize his body for the pursuit of knowledge and cognizance of the reality of things. It is comparable to its corresponding level in the higher plane, namely that of the angels, whence comes its perfection and happiness. The one who knows this will eat purely for the sake of obtaining strength for worship, not pleasure. Without doubt, he will be moderate, and greed will not take hold of him. When he said, namely, that of the angels, think about almost the same story in the Quran and in the Bible. The angels, of course, in anthropomorphic form, they pass by the tent of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. He prepares food for them. In the Quran, once in one context, he cooks a calf for them, and in one context it is a fat, like a really it means simply also honoring the guests. In another context it is roast. At any rate, in the Bible the angels eat. In the Quran they refrain from eating. This is why Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, when they saw that their hands would not reach to the food, he was apprehensive. They told him, do not be afraid. And then they gave him of course to Sarah also at the same time, that they will have a child whose name is Isaac. And Isaac will be followed by Jacob. Has many connotations. This is not the time to go through all this. But suffice it to know that the angels, even when they take anthropomorphic form, they do not have appetite. He will also know that the sexual appetite was created in him in order to instigate sex, which is the means of preserving the species, so that he would seek marriage for the sake of procreation and propriety, not play and enjoyment. If it does nevertheless involve play and enjoyment, the purpose of this is to forge a bond of warmth and affection, ensuring good companionship and a successful, lasting marriage. Okay. Let us recall that the Prophet ﷺ said in a tradition that one is rewarded for having such an intimate relationship. The companions were puzzled by this. So they will have sex, and they, of course, within marriage, always within marriage. Heterosexual, now we have to say, because of all these things that are going on. And the Prophet explained that it's only fair, because if one has fulfills his sexual desire through adultery, then there is punishment. It's only fair that if one fulfills his desires in a lawful way, halal, then there is reward. It's only fair. So that's also one aspect that is usually missing. And also, how about having sex to protect yourself against, going astray? Okay, that's also another aspect. It's very, very important. The Prophet ﷺ ordered the youngsters, Ya ma'shar al-shabab, young men. They are adults. They are من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج ومن لم يستطع فعليه بالصوم فإنه له وجاء. Those who can get married should get married. Of course, this one should explain also whether marriage in itself is imperative, whether it's recommended, whether it is detested, whether it is haram. It depends on the person. If you know that you are in control, you know your desire, maybe then it is recommended for. But if someone knows that if he does not get married he's going to go astray, then it becomes imperative. And if someone knows that he has no strength at all in him, let me use the word impotent, then it could be that it is forbidden to go into marriage, especially if we talk about if there's anything wrong, go and check yourself with a physician before you get married. Don't say that marriage will cure you. Marriage will. It's a long story. Then we have another part of the paragraph that says, Imam Ghazali says, a man should marry only as often as he is able to fulfill the rights of marriage. The one who understands this will find it easy to restrain himself, nor will he deem himself analogous to the lawgiver, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to the Prophet, whose many marriages did not keep him from the remembrance of Allah, nor force him to seek the world for the sake of his wives. This is really, you have several issues here. Let me say, and I would like to, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was monogamous as long as Sayyidah Khadija was still living. He did not marry another woman. Another aspect, Sayyidah Khadija was much older than him. And if we go by what is circulated, she was 40 when he was 25. He could have gotten married to a younger woman, but this is also the one aspect of the life of the Prophet, and I'm going to in the next marriage it becomes very apparent. Okay, so she passes away, he migrates to Medina, and there was a short period when he was not married. Then he got married to Lady Sauda, al-Mu'mineen. Now, one might say, well, Lady Khadija was 40, when he married her, and she was practically 50 when she almost 50 when she passed away, and now it's in fact 53, if you will, approximately. And now that she passed away, now he can marry a younger woman. When the Prophet ﷺ, this is when he married Lady Sauda, there are reports that she was 66 years of age. And it's almost like the utmost act of care, if you will. No woman should be without a husband. It's nonsense to say, well, today we have national insurance. Today, if her husband passes away, as an example, she could be also divorced. Then, the state will provide for her. All these things. The state will not provide that human touch. Okay, she cannot hug the check that comes from the national insurance or whatever social services. A companion, if her husband passes away, she will get married. Another one will marry her. Another one, if she, that it happened, especially during the very first period, that many of the companions passed away, and a woman could have gotten married. There was a case when, at least one of them was married to several of the companions, because there were many attacks on Muslims. They were martyred. And let's go back to the paragraph of Imam Al-Ghazali. Remember that after Lady Khadija, radiallahu anha, it was Lady Sauda, radiallahu anha. She was an elderly woman, and we know through the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that at one point there was no intimate relationship between them later on in her life. Okay. She gave up her night. That's also an added aspect. Now, a man should marry only as often as he is able to fulfill the rights of marriage. I think this is, there was a dean of the Faculty of Islamic Studies at Al-Azhar University, when he explained the issue of whether one has the right to 4 wives, and he said it's not a right, that the Sharia made it possible, abah. It's not a right. There's a big difference between this is my right, okay, and it is related to ability in all senses. Remember that it's going to be, you are married to 2, it's going to be double the responsibility. Married to 3, it's going to be triple the responsibilities. Later on, quadruple the responsibilities. Okay. The one who understands this will find it easy to restrain himself, nor will he deem himself analogous to the lawgiver ﷺ, whose many marriages did not keep him from the remembrance of Allah, nor force him to seek the world for the sake of his wives. If one entertains the notion that if something did not harm the lawgiver, it will not harm oneself, it is like thinking that if a small quantity of an impure substance would not sully the vast ocean, it will likewise not sully a thimbleful of seawater, or that a quantity of fine foods that will not harm a strong man will not harm a tiny, weak child either. Many a pretentious fool compares himself to the lawgiver, as though comparing angels to blacksmiths, and so ruins himself without realizing it. We seek Allah's refuge from weak insight, for it is almost worse than blindness, since at least the blind man realizes his limitation and follows the guidance of others, while the weak sighted man is able to see well enough to make him think he is above following others, but then his light is never perfected, as it would be if he only followed the right path. Allah cares not what road such a man may stumble up down to his doom. I once encountered, this is Imam Al-Ghazali still speaking, Rahimahullah, he said, I once encountered a group of foolish common folk exchanging their pretentious opinion about Sufism and asking, why were these appetites created at all, if it is blameworthy and ruinous to pursue them? They were unaware that the two appetites, food and sex, have two great wise purposes behind their creation. The first is the preservation of the individual by means of nutrition, and the species by means of procreation. Think in same-sex marriage there is no procreation. If there is procreation, it has to involve the other sex. Two women, they will need so-called a donor, paid or unpaid. Two men, they will look for a surrogate mother. Subhanallah. Procreation means the involvement of male and female. There's no other way. You cannot do it. There's no other way. These are both essential according to the want of Allah that He has ordained and His eternal will, for which we shall find no diversion or change. The second is to rouse in man desire for the bliss of the hereafter, for if they had no experience of pleasure or pain, they would neither desire paradise nor fear hell. If they were promised only that which no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor human heart imagined, this alone would not be enough to persuade their souls to prefer it. This, then, is the limit of temperance. Justice. And a beautiful statement here. Justice means the proper orderly state of the three faculties in the necessary hierarchy of ascendancy and subordination. In a nation, if there is a praiseworthy hierarchy between the king, his forces, and his subjects, such that the king is an insightful ruler, his forces strong and obedient, and his subjects docile and subservient, it is said that justice prevails in the nation. Justice is not in order if some of them have these qualities but not others. The same applies to the kingdom of the body with regards to these qualities. Justice in matters of the soul's character will inevitably be followed by justice in transactions and politics, which in a sense are branches. The meaning of justice is the achievement of proper order, whether in matters of character, the rights of transactions, or the parts by which the nation functions. Justice in transactions is the middle point between the vices of fraud and self-defrauding. It is to take what one is justified in taking and give what one is justified in giving. Fraud means to take what one is not justified in taking, while self-defrauding is to give away something in a transaction in return for no advantage, whether praise or payment. Justice in politics means that the parts of the polis are set in the same order as the parts of the soul ought to be. Okay. The polis is not, this is P-O-L-I-S. It's the city, it's the Okay, it's not the cups. So that the polis is like single individual with regards to the harmony and concord of its parts and the cooperation of its pillars towards the desired aims of society. Each thing is put in its proper place, and the population is divided into those who are served but do not serve, and those who serve but are not served, and those who serve in some ways and are served in others, as we explained when describing the faculties of the soul. Justice does not sit between two vices. If you are aware of Nicomachean ethics, that's also pretty much the same concept, but rather is opposed by the singular vice of injustice. For there is no middle point between order and disorder. It is upon this very same order and justice that heaven and earth stand, so that the entire universe is like a single individual with cooperating faculties and parts. The last paragraph. Now that we have outlined these mother virtues, let us mention some details of the subdivisions of each mother virtue and mother vice, beginning with the intellective faculty, then the irascible, then the appetitive, so as to provide a more comprehensive explanation. More, inshallah, we will read the subdivisions of the virtue of wisdom and its corresponding vices of deceit and stupidity. بيان ما يندرج تحت فضيلة الحكمة ورذيلتها من الخب والبله. عافانا الله وإياكم من هاتين. إن شاء الله أنت الأمور. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.